Thanks for tuning in to Barbershop Sports Talk.
So, a couple things you said that I think are pretty interesting. First, Ben, you think there's a chance he could still be on the roster after the trade deadline? Like, that's a real possibility?
I do. I think just in large part because the Sixers front office is thus far not shifting its stance that a trade that only nets one or two decent players or anything less than like all-star caliber talent is going to be insufficient. So I think a lot of it depends on exactly what happens in these negotiations with the teams that do have interest in Simmons. But despite the fact that he's a flawed player and that everyone around the league is aware of his weaknesses, the Sixers continue to value him very highly, and they consider him one of the league's best and most versatile defenders, and they know how valuable he is for their transition offense, and they still think he's pretty darn good. So, yeah, it is not impossible that that happens, which I know sounds wild on paper, but hey, we've already gone through 40 regular season games, and he's still on the roster. So, obviously, the deadline increases the probability of a deal happening, but I do think it is not unrealistic to think that Simmons could, technically still be a Sixer even post-deadline.
So, let's say theoretically he is still a Sixer after the deadline. How does that work? Does that mean he still want to come back to the team? Does that mean this just trickles into the offseason? Like, how does that look?
That's the big question. I think the sense is that, as I said, both sides are pretty firm in where they stand, so it would be fair to call it a shocker if Ben Simmons actually returned to the court as a Sixer. But hey, I guess, if the playoffs approach and he feels he's in a better place mentally and maybe things do change there. But I think in all likelihood, in a scenario where Simmons isn't dealt before the deadline, the Sixers just wait until the off season and then they further dive into that trade market and hope that an offer more to their liking is available.